Hi, my name is Crystal, and for my project, I will be doing overthinking just because I personally struggle with it. Thought that if I learned more about overthinking, I could understand why I do it in the first place, and also hopefully to learn techniques on how to manage it. My project will be focused on understanding why we overthink, also the processes behind overthinking, and coping mechanisms to handle it. My topic is partly on affect, cognition, and psychological disorders because overthinking can be a symptom of mental illness or be a predictor of mental illness. The sources that I've used are either scientific papers from people with an extensive background in psychology or psychiatry, citations will be listed here, and also websites dedicated to talking about mental illnesses, which would be cited here. And the APA doesn't really have a set definition for overthinking, but there are a lot of papers that have suggested that it is like a symptom of anxiety, and on its own, overthinking isn't as debilitating as anxiety. And also, it's involved with rumination and worry. So, no one really knows why we overthink in the first place, but evolutionary psychologists kind of think that it was survival for back then. The mind is continuously trying to learn from our past to figure out what is safe and what is not safe. And basically, we're trying to apply all of that knowledge to future situations so that we're better prepared. But as our environment kind of changed around us, overthinking has become maladaptive. There's not a lot of scientific research on overthinking itself, but there is a lot of scientific research on the two processes that go into overthinking: rumination and worry. The word rumination comes from ruminate, and ruminate is usually used in the context of cows chewing cud over and over again. Instead of cud, though, rumination is replaying past events over and over in hopes of deciphering what they mean, why it occurred, etc., etc. In one study, participants were actually asked why they thought that they ruminated, and the majority said that it was almost like they were uncovering meanings to their feelings, to their problems, and to their situations, and things like that. Next, we have worry. Worry is a chain of thoughts and images that are negative and kind of uncontrollable sometimes. The chain usually stems from one current mistake and kind of leads the mind to future negative outcomes just from that one mistake. Some participants even said that it helped them feel like they've predicted a potential threat and dealt with it. So in Table 1, it basically summarizes and shows the differences between rumination and worry. Rumination and worry are both repetitive negative thoughts and is a transdiagnostic risk factor, meaning that overthinking can actually increase someone's likelihood of having depression and anxiety. Both are ways for people to feel like they're problem solving or feel like they're gaining more insight on a specific event, but they're actually really inefficient strategies. Not only are they damaging ways to cope, they're also a possible indicator for the potential onset of depression. So we still aren't really sure why some people overthink while others don't, but it's kind of clear that people who do overthink need a trigger of some kind, such as a negative outcome or result. Some research has also suggested that poor control over attention could also be a factor, because if someone is on spiraling with their negative thoughts and they can't stray from it or come out from it, then they would stay in that spiral for a while. One controversy is that some researchers believe that rumination could be a predictor of the duration of depression in people who have depression, while other researchers don't really think that way. Nola and Hoeksema suspected that there is no association between rumination and length of depression because people more vulnerable to depression are already more likely to ruminate. Rumination can then lead to other forms of self-perpetuating processes that influence how long depressive symptoms actually last for. She concluded that rumination is more accurate as a predictor for the onset of depression, but not so much for estimating the duration of depression in people who have clinical depression. So now that we know all of this information, what can we do? Psychology today actually recommends the first step be awareness. So once you feel like you're spiraling, you feel like there are a lot of negative thoughts going through your head, try to acknowledge them and know that they're unproductive. These are two other ways that can help with overthinking. To conclude, a lot more research on overthinking could really help. It's a neglected but important subject, because there's evidence to support that persistent rumination and worry can actually lead to a higher chance of mental illness such as anxiety and depression. Also, learning about overthinking matters because anxiety is the most common mental illness in the US, affecting roughly around 1 out of 5 people, and depression is the #1 disability in the US. If we could more in-depthly know how overthinking contributes to these numbers, we could have preventative resources that are better equipped at targeting higher risk individuals for mental illness. Thank you.